What's up? It's Gabriel from the Murder Capital. We are a band from Ireland, and we are doing our very first Australian and New Zealand tour this year.
Yes, fantastic. We can't wait. Thanks so much. It's great to have you. Can you tell us a little bit about the themes or the inspiration behind the new album Blindness?
Yeah, it's it's to do with love. It's to do with being Irish. And yeah, I guess like a lot of it is to do with coming to see things that maybe you grew up with, or being blindsided, like in our own life right now, or like not being able to see someone you love, if it's through like physical distance or if it's through them being gone.
I,
That's some of the themes of the record.
yeah. So I think the first record you guys did was sort of centered around grief, and then the next one was like more of a celebration of life. Is that
Mm.
correct? Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
fair.
this one is kind of like the departure, I guess, of someone you loved, and yeah, not being able to see them, like you said.
Yeah, well, even like not necessarily to do with grief, just more so like um or even if you're like in front of one another, but you're not seeing each other's point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, it's that. It's the. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense. um, You've toured with one of my favorite artists ever, Nick Cave. How did that come about?
We were really like, yeah, Nick is one of the biggest inspirations to some of the lads in the band. Like, he's obviously like one of the greats. He's up there with any, eh, and he's up there in the highest caliber of artists. Um, and we were just well lucky in a sense that he got our music, but also like uh it was, I don't know what the right word is. I don't think it's serendipitous, but he's just ended up being like a fan of the band. Before our I think like for that most recent tour and the Wild God tour, there was like a short list of like 30 artists, and then we had heard before Christmas that it was getting whittled down to like nine.
Oh my God.
So we had to like wait the whole of Christmas. Like the better's odds were we were like 3 in 9 chance or 1 in 3 chance of getting to support him. Um, but yeah, in the new year, then it just came through. But it was really like it was the most amazing experience ever. Like being able to like travel with an operation of that size was phenomenal, and like we learned so much. And on the last night, we got to break bread with him. Like he invited us for dinner with him and the Bad Seeds, and just such like real, humble, present uh people, and there's no shit with them. Like, do you know what I mean? They've been through it all. Like they've been around since the 80s. Like they've seen everything. You know they've been to the depths. They've been to the heights, and I don't know. There's because it's fucking Nick Cave. You think that there's obviously an aura about him, but when you're talking to him, he's just like a very like very sophisticated, very astute,
Wow.
but very real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was yeah. It's just so nice to be able to have real human conversations with people that like artistically you idolize. Um, and yeah, just the stamina that he and the band have is just like so inspiring because we had proof of it. Like when you see the show once, you're like, holy fuck! Like that's one of the best performances I've ever seen. Like the way that they take fucking 20,000 people on a journey for 2.5 hours. Um, and your head gets blown off the first night, but then the very next night he's doing the same thing in a different country.
Yeah.
But doing that for like 2 months, 2.5 months, every night, every other night, it's like physically it's such a feat. Um, but like to have that skill, and it always boiled down to just him on the piano at the end of every show was Into My Arms.
Yes.
Um, and was just such a huge moment because like you have the whole show, the 11, 12 piece band, the backing vocals, um, you know, such grandeur of sound and production. And then the show always just boils down to him on the piano on his own, and then even more than everything nearly that he's done before, he just shows you the fucking power of a song, the power of a voice and uh, an instrument. Um, just such true human connection. Seeing human connection on that scale was so nice, and like I noticed like almost every night, um, the line of that song is like, "But I believe in love," I think.
Yeah.
Um, everybody always started like everyone was like really quiet because it's him on piano, generally singing along, but not like heckling,
Hmm.
not heckling, but not jeering. Once he said that line every night, everyone like shouted as if somebody had scored a goal.
Oh.
I don't know. It was just that was cool to see that across a lot of different cities and countries.
Yeah, definitely. He always invokes an emotional response, I think, no matter how many times you've listened to his songs.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to hear too that, you know, how people say don't meet your idols. I can attest to that. I've met a few of my idols and it's not always been the best experience, unfortunately, but
Okay.
it's nice to hear that Nick Cave, you know, is down to earth and you can, you know, form a connection with him. That's awesome.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
very sophisticated guy.
Yeah. Your debut single blew up on Spotify and online, more or less. Was that difficult to navigate as a band?
Um, no, I think it was fun, honestly. Um, we no, it's like it's what we wanted for, like we knew we weren't like half-assing it when we joined the band or when like even before we all were in the band. All of us like moved to Dublin with the intention of like music becoming our life. And it's a big risk to take, spending, the formative years of your life doing something that doesn't necessarily have a security of, a job or anything like that. And like that was a big thing for a lot of us coming from like, well, for me anyway, coming from like a more rural part of Ireland. Um, but like I had primed and readied myself for doing this since I was younger. It like getting caught up into the whirlwind of the music industry when you're like in your early 20s is definitely a bit of a head fuck though as you get older.
Yeah.
Um, but it's fun as well. It's like you just learn. Everybody grows. But no, and in fairness, like we had a pretty fucking uh like steep incline,
Hmm.
but COVID happened then, so it was like probably the come down of it and like maybe like having such a sharp incline then to like nothing always like it feels like you've just been like shot out of a cannon
Hmm.
and then you're suspended in air for a while. Was kind of how
Yeah.
it felt.
Yeah, that's crazy. It must have felt, yeah, really weird, as you said, to have that incline and then all of a sudden it's like, where's it gone? I suppose.
Mm.
But you guys still did well after that anyway, so it's not like everything.
No, totally.
Yeah.
I guess it was just like who knows what would have happened if COVID didn't happen, but
Yeah.
no, it was manageable. It was manageable.
Yeah. Who did the album artwork for Blindness and how does it represent the album?
Yeah, We there is a person called Victor H who has been the creative director for a lot of the rollout and like a lot of any he's the creative director of a lot of the rollout of the album. He was it was something that we wanted to do this time around was that like you sort of because none of us are hold on, let me see. We knew we wanted to give our vision over to somebody that we trusted in that way. Um, because you know we're musicians, like we don't have 100% grasp over the technical side of creating something like that. Um, like an album artwork. So we knew we wanted something to be new. Like in ways like Gigi, we wanted to create something that was actually our own that was made directly because of the music. Um, and yeah, Victor has done some really impressive album covers in the past few years. I think he's one of the most important and influential and impactful album cover artists uh, in the past decade, as an artist in general, but specifically the album covers he's done. I learned about the two that drew me to him was his Rosalia cover. He done like the Motomami design and the Steve Lacy Gemini Rights album. And it was actually I love both of those covers, but we were able to get on a phone call with him, and when he explained how he made it, it just the process and like I knew I loved his work, but when he was able to explain his work and contextualize his choices, it was just like, okay, we really wanted to work with him. Um, and in the context of, I mean, Victor himself, he's never given us like a full explanation of the album cover necessarily, but um, I don't know, yeah, like it's for me, it's just like my mom was done art therapy just before she passed away. Like as in like she learned how to become an art therapist and she was explaining the process to me and like how sometimes people can be non-verbal and the only way that they can communicate is through art and like they could be drawn and they don't even know what they're drawn, but an art therapist's job is to look at that and understand it and that wasn't a note or anything for Victor, but my interpretation of that is like a lot like the single artwork and a lot of the things that he's done feels like it's coming from a place of a person who is learning about like imagine the person's mind is what all these songs are, and Victor is bringing it up, bringing that person's mind in a like in a scribbling sense, like in an art therapy sense. And to me, what our artwork looks like, what our album cover looks like, is this person who has these fucking amazing wings, like has all this possibility, has all this potential, has all this ability, has all this bravery, has all this courage, but they're looking into the fucking madness of the world that's in front of them, the madness of the world that they grew up with. Um, and yeah, you can't really see it. Like, it's more of an emotion than something like specific in that red and orange. But then there's the blue inside the person. So the calm is inside the person, the potential, all those things are inside the person, but they're looking into this harsh world, this harsh reality. That's kind of what it means to me. Um, I think the figure itself was taken from one of the songs. Um, but yeah, that's what it means to me. I don't know if that's what I meant to Victor though.
No, that's amazing. The amount of layers and depth you just went into there in describing it. That's nuts. Because when you look at it on face value, you know, I'm not a very artistic person. I'm like, that's a great album art, cover art. But, you know, I didn't really think too much beyond it. And to hear that he really got his inspiration from the music, yeah, that's amazing.
Mm.
That's so
Yeah.
cool. You guys got to open for Pearl Jam, which is incredible.
Yes.
Are they one of the artists that inspire your sound?
Sonically, honestly, it's not. They're not somebody that we bring into the room as a reference, but I think like as a band in general, they absolutely are. Like we were in Seattle on in 2023 on our first tour, and like there's just such reverence around Pearl Jam there. Um, and like that's so infectious, like, and like when I was a kid, like Into the Wild was like there was the first time that I recognized what a um like a soundtrack was Eddie Vedder soundtrack to that. So like they've had a huge deep connection to us. But as well, they're like if you if like an alien came to Earth and was like figuring out about um different things, like I don't know, like what's a car?
Mhm.
Like it's like a Ford, it's like a Toyota, like what is fruit? It's like it's a banana, it's an apple. It's like what's a band? Well, like Pearl Jam comes into that conversation, you know what I mean? Like if you're asking what a fucking band is, Pearl Jam's one of the bands you give as an example, like because they're just so huge, but they mean so much and uh they transcend genre even in their definition of importance and what they are, you know. So yeah, like the occasion of supporting them was not lost on us, and like having a band that deserves so much reverence, being excited about working with us or being excited about our music is really truly such an honor. Um, and like they know how respectful their fans are, but also how much their fans get on board with what they say. And they're just so kind to us. Like Eddie, like give us a big shout out in Dublin. We supported them in Dublin and Marley Park. Spent like a good minute talking about us, like, and he just didn't have to fucking do that, and he did. But he knows why that matters, you know. And it's really cool. It's just like they yeah, like they had us supporting in Europe and they had Pixie supporting in America. So like that was like to draw those comparisons, like
Pretty huge.
yeah, it was just like like I'm not like we have a lot more work to do before we get into the conversation of being as as long lasting as Pixies. But um yeah, and they I felt like I learned a lot from just being around their crew and being around their operation.
Yeah. Yeah, that must have been so amazing. If the Motor Capital never started, what do you think you'd be doing?
I know what I would be doing. I would be an undertaker.
Oh my
Be-
God.
yeah.
That's cool.
Um, because that's my dad is an undertaker. My dad's a funeral director.
Wow.
So that is what. Well, I still do that sometimes when I'm home. It's like our family business. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Not a lot of people know that. I like that. I still it's like a vocation. Like it's uh I'm so privileged that I get to see in the band, like I get to see people having the best time ever at a show, at a festival, like living life to the fullest. And then as an undertaker, I see people having some of the worst times of their life. And to be able to see human emotion in that way is a huge privilege. But yeah, that if the murder capital never started, I would be an undertaker.
Geez. Does it doing that work, does it desensitize you to death at all? Or does it make you more empathetic, do you think?
More for me, definitely more empathetic. Um, but it's also very base in that it my philosophy around undertaking is that, you know, one must strip themselves of their own ego, and it's just about the family and supporting them and being a facilitator to them, and it's just helping them, and like the other side of it is like my philosophy again is like you can't show emotion. Like if you're in a room where there's people obviously, crying like in huge states of upset because they've lost someone that they love, um, then like it's the Undertaker's job to be as solid as a rock for whatever they need. If they need a hug, if they need someone to go do something physically, if they just need to be the person in the room that is like the calm, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and it's just like, yeah, I have such appreciation for my time on this earth from when I was young, having a grasp of that or knowing that that's like important sometimes just to like it's just not fucking about you.
Hmm.
Um, like I'm saying that to myself, like in those contexts.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think that's a healthy place to arrive, and then it does make, even though it's like reserving your own emotion for a period of time. Maybe that's what empathy is in certain contexts, is like reserving your own emotion about things so that
Or
you can like
someone
look
else.
after someone who's going through it, you know?
Yeah, definitely. That's amazing. And there's a lot more to it than, the average person thinks, I reckon. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's so
For
cool.
sure.
What does this album represent for you?
That's a good question. I think on more like a personal level, it just is like it feels like such security. I think because I kind of joined the band um last. uh there was part of me that was like I felt like a bit of imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
Um and just in general, like I don't know, it just took me a long time to accept that we were a band, or that we were a band in the same context as I believe bands were growing up. I always felt like separated or something, and like
Mhm.
um there's not a huge amount of reference points for really being in the music industry when I was growing up. Um and it took me a while to believe that I was in it, or that we were a band, and like even like would be fucking on the cover of NME or Rolling Stone, or I don't know, like things like that. I just didn't believe it. But in 2024, like we played Glastonbury, we played Coachella, done a KXP, and now we have our third record. I just feel so solid in that. I feel so that's not a fluke, you know?
No.
Like that came through hard work and like years of hard work and commitment and repetition, and um yeah, like I know it's probably like better to talk about the record in a thematic sense, but like personally what this record represents is like our commitment to one another and our commitment to ourselves, and yeah, album three is just like, yeah, this is fucking us. Like we could like you can't put out your third album the first go, you know what I mean? You have to earn it, and we've earned it, you know?
Yeah, definitely. You guys have solidified yourselves and the band, and yeah,
Mhm.
that's so it must feel nice to finally feel, or not finally feel, but to feel that security and be like, yeah, no, this is actually happening. And
Yeah, no, like so many, like there's so many amazing Irish artists out at the minute, and uh like Lancome, CMAT, and like even like the comparison I'm drawing is like Kneecap are like only on their first album and are already like way like bigger than we are. And like I think if we had released our albums at the same time, it probably would have got like, oh fuck, why hasn't that happened to us?
Yeah,
But it's nice being on our journey and like regardless of what size we ever get to, just the fact that we've made 3 albums is like you can't fake that or something. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, no,
Um,
definitely.
yeah, and it's cool. And like, and again, working or say working with Nick, but like being on tour with Nick was like, my partner Katie, her dad was we brought him to the Paris show, and he was blown away because it was like 20,000 people in the room, and he was like, "Fuck!" Like I saw this fella in the '80s when he was playing clubs,
Yep.
um, and like Nick's in his '60s now, um, and this year has been the first time he's been nominated for a Grammy. And I don't know, it just is like, I don't know, it was just a good feeling. It's just like, just stick at it and like the things will come.
That's it. Exactly. Don't try and compare yourself too much to the other artists out there because
Mm.
as well, their journey could go on a totally different path and or it could end. And yeah, just never know.
Yeah.
Um, can you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up in your hometown? Because I understand that you guys all grew up in different areas of parts of
Mhm.
Ireland and Europe. Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about the place that you grew up in?
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about it. I grew up in a place called Letterkenny in County Donegal, which is in it's the most northern county in Ireland while still being in the Republic of Ireland. It's a border to the north of Ireland. It borders Derry. And I fucking love growing up there. There was loads of amazing musicians and artists that were there. And I think it benefited me, my hometown feeling like the whole world. Because it gave me time to just fucking play music on my own and just focus and like I honestly the lads always laugh at me because I'm always on about like school and stuff, but I think just like not having that pressure of having to make it or something for like a good few years was really positive. Um, because it was such a non-reality. But then when I was like 16, I met a a dear friend, Bridie Mons Watson, also known as Soak. And that was the first time that I met someone who actually was in the music industry, played actual shows, and Bridie was very kind. They let me support them on like 2 shows of their Being Nobody tour, one in Derry and one in Dublin. Um, and yeah, then I like for the first time saw what it would be like it to be in the music industry, and then moved up to Dublin then. But yeah, I think being from my hometown, it just gave me so much identity. And when I moved to Dublin, when I moved to London, now that we travel the world, like I fucking know who I am,
Yeah,
um, because of where I've come from, and
yeah,
I go back all the time. So I need to go back all the time to like ground myself again, and it can be a lot at times. The juxtaposition of one day and the next day. Like one day I could be having dinner with Nick Cave, and then the next day I'm back in my uh, bedroom at home.
yeah,
I'm like, fucking hell, that's mad.
yeah.
But I think the juxtaposition that like having coming from Letterkenny has given me is been a positive. It makes those moments even richer.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's interesting too that because James is from Dublin originally, is he?
Between Dublin and Cork, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So more city, I suppose, and then you're from the rural, more rural, is that right?
Yeah, rural is sort of small town, and then Cahill is from like Donegal town, which is quite rural as well. Then Irv is from West Cork, rural, and then D the drummer, um grew up in Dunshaughlin, which is like a small town again, sort of village.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so yeah, we've came from all over the map.
Yeah, so you've got all these different perspectives and how you guys, yeah, grew up, and you're all putting it together for one common goal, I suppose, which is really cool
Mm.
to think about.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I'm so pleased to say that the Murder Capital will be touring Australia next year in April, and the album Blindness will be out in February. Gabriel, thank you so much.
thank you so much. All the best.
You too.
Cheers,
Take
Anza.
care. Thank you.